Hello and welcome back to the Rowdy Time Podcast. I know it's been a while since my last post, and believe me, I wish I could have come back with something a lot more positive to talk about. First off, I want you all to know that unlike my previous audio podcasts, which I've tried to make as off-the-cuff and unscripted as possible, I've written everything down verbatim for this show, and this is because I want to make sure I cover every detail possible in order to get my complete view out. I've tried my best to get as much information on this subject as I can, so I can make as informed an opinion as possible. And if I come out sounding like one or more radio talking heads, I apologize, and that's only because I happen to really share the same opinions as them. Of course, I guess you all know what I'm alluding to, this tragic scandal at Penn State University, where it's revealed that a former football assistant coach, Jerry Sandusky, is charged with molesting young boys during and after his official tenure with the school. This has led to the firing of legendary football coach Joe Paterno, springing off just basically more controversy than could ever be imagined. There were riots on campus by students. There was talk about whether or not this today's game against Penn State and Nebraska should even have been played or not. But I guess the biggest question coming down here is, did Paterno deserve to be fired for this? More specifically, even after he announced he would retire after the season, did the school and the Board of Trustees have the right to even deny him that? Well, here's the timeline of this scandal as best as I've heard, and it's this timeline of events that influence my ultimate opinion. The first investigation into Sandusky happened around 1998, involving Sandusky showering with a young boy. Now, this is at a time when Sandusky is viewed as the heir apparent to Paterno. A year later, right after he's named Assistant Coach of the Year, Sandusky quits and never coaches again until 2008 as a high school volunteer assistant. For the time being at Penn State, he still has access to their facilities. Okay, then in 2002, graduate assistant Mike McQueary sees Sandusky raping a boy in the showers, and the next day tells Paterno that something was going on. What exactly he said, there have been varying accounts as to what exactly that was, but Paterno then supposedly relays this information to the athletic director and the guy who was then at the time the head of the campus police. Sandusky is subsequently denied access to the facilities and banned from bringing children on campus, but he's not charged with any crime until this month in 2011, following a nearly 3-year investigation after he's accused of being inappropriate with a kid during his aforementioned time as the high school coach. Okay, now, Richie Whitt of 105.3 The Fan here in Dallas, one of the main shows I listen to for sports talk and sports news here in DFW, okay, he has said that Paterno did not just do the bare minimum, as so many claim, because he then talked in multiple times with both the athletic director and the campus police head. And of that, I happen to agree with him. He also says still that Paterno could have done more. So the question now becomes, is not doing enough or not doing as much as he could a fireable offense in this case? I have to say yes, given that how much time this has gone on and the exact circumstances of what Paterno had to have known when the big incident in 2002 occurred. Again, the first incident occurred in 1998, and 4 years later this thing happens, and still no really decisive, upfront legal action is taken against Sandusky. Not even by Paterno or anyone else. Now, yes, I can't say the school did nothing. I can't say Paterno turned a blind eye completely, because they did take away Sandusky's privileges on campus. But no, that's not close to doing enough, and that's why it looks like there was a huge cover-up to keep Sandusky from serving the jail time he deserves in some attempt to protect either his reputation or Penn State's. Again, even if all McQueary told Paterno was that there was horseplay going on, there was already precedent with Sandusky. How does Paterno not get to the bottom of exactly what happened? If he chose to ignore this incident and try to forget about it after reporting it to his higher-ups, knowing what happened in the past, that is being unbelievably negligent, and he is responsible. And if he did find out all that happened, how does he not go to the actual police force and not just the campus police as soon as he figures that out? And if for some reason, despite him being basically the grand poobah at that university, he's still prevented from making sure Sandusky gets the justice he deserves, how does he not quit as head football coach right then and there, absolving him from his ties to the school, and then reporting what he knows to the police? If they're willing to cover stuff up like that against his wishes, how can he work there anymore? And I don't want to hear anyone saying that he should have been fired because the Attorney General has so far said that Paterno did nothing illegal. Just because he's not liable by the law doesn't mean he's not punishable by his employer. If I steal from the people I work for or do something else that makes them look really bad, and then the district attorney in my area says I'm not guilty of any crime, that doesn't mean they still can't fire me. The law doesn't dictate the rules of his employer in this particular case. The truth is, Joe Paterno was the one person who could have done the most to end this terrible situation years ago. If he had taken charge, even going past his athletic director and the president, who, believe me, he would have more power than them, if he takes charge, everyone else would have followed him. But because he didn't do enough, even though he didn't turn a completely blind eye, but because he didn't go further, everyone else started looking the other way, and yes, that's why Joe Paterno had to be fired. He's not the only one. Everyone in this sordid mess needs to be fired from the school and possibly looked at for criminal investigations to see if they are committed any legal infractions, but Paterno is in that mix. That brings me to McQueary, who was supposedly going to coach this weekend's game, but now has apparently refused and is in protective custody. I didn't watch the game, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. But anyway, McQueary is now getting just as much flack as Paterno, and the question for him is that deserved? Here's where I might differ with some people. See, you have to remember that he was just a graduate assistant at the time that this big incident occurred. I can understand him being scared at the time. I mean, it's basically the same reason why I can see why this rape victim has still not come forward. I mean, seeing all those students rioting because Paterno got fired, what do you think they do to this victim, who they would probably see as the biggest reason in their own warped minds for all of this? Remember the hate the student who brought down Bob Knight received at Indiana University? Yeah, it's gonna sadly be 1,000 times worse for this rape victim. Oh, and by the way, before I forget this, all these kids who were rioting in the streets, claiming to be on Paterno's side and demanding he be brought back, they all need to be expelled. That's just it for me. The campus, I don't know if they can actually do this, but campus-wide expulsions of anyone who was rioting in protest of their decision. They need to be banned from campus altogether. But anyway, what I was getting at is the fear that I believe the rape victim still currently has. I can see similar to the same thing with McQueary, where at the time he knows he has to do something, but being scared that doing so will put everything he has at risk, even though it shouldn't be that way, because he's basically challenging not just his superiors, but people who are revered as gods at Penn State and the state of Pennsylvania. I can understand him doing what little he did at the time. Don't get me wrong, it was still cowardly, and he needs to be held accountable for it. But I still say Paterno is much more responsible for this than McQueary, because Paterno was in a much more powerful position to do something. And the fact that Paterno didn't do more was one of the biggest contributors to this 9 to 13 year cover-up. And what's really scary about all of this is all the rumors I'm hearing, rumors mind you, that a lot more people knew about Sandusky's actions and have done everything they could to hide it and keep knowledge of it from getting outside the state of Pennsylvania. The absolute creepiest thing in all of this, and trust me, that's saying a lot, is hearing about former District Attorney Ray Gricar, hope I pronounced that name correctly, and that he was supposedly opening an investigation into Sandusky back around 2005, and then disappeared off the face of the earth. His laptop found in a river with the hard drive missing. And let me assure you all, I am generally not a conspiracy theorist. I believe Oswald acted alone in the JFK assassination. But this whole thing is starting to sound like something out of a Law & Order SVU episode, and don't be surprised if an actual episode comes out based on this whole sordid affair pretty damn soon. But overall, trust me, it's just going to get a lot worse as this continues to play out. That much I'm sure of. And the fact that this happened with the one program that was supposed to represent everything that was good about college football, I'm sorry, but it just adds another reason why I have virtually no respect for this sport. I just hope I'll have something a lot more positive and better to talk about next time, but until next time, look after your children, make sure you know who they're associated with for those of my listeners who have kids, and stay rowdy, my friends.